So this is a continuation of my pendulum series, how to navigate modern pendulums and make them work for you as a sovereign woman or as a single woman. Obviously, you can listen to this as well if you're partnered up, but my content is like more specifically geared towards single women that are still trying to just navigate this phase of their life. So pendulums, just to recap, they are a concept that was introduced to us by Vadim Zeland in his book, Reality Transurfing. This is an amazing kind of framework for manifestation and basically how to like bring about your desired reality. And it's a really, he explains like abstract concepts using really detailed models and frameworks that I think they can help you depending on what kind of learner you are. If you're like a visual learner, if you need something tangible or physical to grasp onto, the way that he puts it in this book can be really helpful to you. So anyway, pendulums, just to recap really quickly, it's any type of group or entity or organization that has a certain agenda that they are trying to push, that they need to recruit more people into. They need to harvest your energy or your money or all of the above in order to keep their group or their own entity going. So common pendulums are certain companies, right? If you work for a certain company, then you are feeding into that pendulum every single day because you are giving them your labor and your life force and whatever. And, there's an entire spectrum it ranges from super toxic to super beneficial, but at best, it's always going to be a symbiotic relationship, right? Anytime you enter into a relationship with a pendulum, whether it's a company or interest group, even like a hobby group that you might be part of, a chessboard game group that meets on Saturdays, that constitutes one type of pendulum. And, depending on the goals of the pendulum or who is at the helm, who is on the board of directors of that pendulum, who's on the leadership team, that's going to dictate what they're looking for from you. So you just have to be conscious when you're in the world, and you also onto yourself. You are a pendulum. YouTube channels, this YouTube channel is a pendulum. Certain topics are pendulums, like case in point, the whole Wizard Liz and Landon situation. It's a thing that if you keep feeding it, like people do have a vested interest. Certain people have a interest in keeping this discussion, the updates of Liz and Landon alive on social media because it brings attention to their channels, which in turn brings profit to them, right? Whether in the form of real cold hard cash like AdSense money or just attention and clout for their channel, people have a vested interest in keeping certain topics trending. And that's why, rage bait is also very effective because it plays on the most low vibrational of human emotions like fear, shame, etc., or like the desire to see other people be humiliated in public. So any entity that kind of like seeks energy, essentially harvests energy from people, from society, is a pendulum. So you yourself, you and your life, remember, is also a pendulum, right? That's the one that you have the most interest in preserving and in feeding. So in order to do so, you have to be careful whatever pendulums that you interact with in the world, which nobody is exempt from. We all have to do it to some extent. And we all have to, unfortunately, we all have to encounter and deal with toxic pendulums sometimes. But as long as you are equipped with the tools and the mental fortitude and the strategy to navigate some of the more treacherous pendulums out there, you should be fine. This is why it's important to develop your own intuition. And the way that you develop your own intuition first is to figure out and assert in the beginning, okay, what your goal is, what you want for yourself, what would be in your best interest. So that's step one. Actually, there's a step 0 before that, which is to give yourself permission to voice out loud even what is best for yourself without the influence of the shame programming or the guilt programming that a lot of us have been programmed with or indoctrinated with since we were a child. So after you undo, all of your shame programming and your good girl programming, when you are in the space to finally put yourself first, realize that, okay, this is my life and I have the right to, design it the way that I feel fit. I have the right to pursue a certain standard of living or a certain job, whatever it is that benefits me and that works for me, right? I reserve the right to try out different groups or try out different jobs. But if I ever feel that I'm being disrespected or if I'm not being valued in a certain space, I reserve the right to withdraw my presence and go find another situation or another group that actually values me and cherishes me. So once you know that, then your intuition is just a natural next step, because now anything that you interact with that is acting like out of alignment with that, you're going to be able to feel it immediately when a certain pendulum that you interact with is trying to get you to go against your own best interests or sacrifice yourself for the greater good of that particular group or pendulum, right? So I always like to go back to just this simple diagram. It's just a Venn diagram. So you want to make sure that when you're interacting with pendulums, you want to make sure that you hit a sweet spot. It's a better bet to give your energy and your attention to pendulums and situations and relationships in which there's a mutual benefit for both you and the organization or the group. So a lot of times, like what I talk about on this channel is to protect yourself from predatory or like energy vampire type of pendulums that just come to take from you. And their main goal is to just suck away your life essence without giving you anything in return of value. In fact, they might give you something even worse, like trauma or something in return in the worst case scenarios. But the flip side of that a lot of people don't talk about is that you don't necessarily want to be in a situation where you are, for lack of a better term, kind of like the predatory entity, or you're the one that's like benefiting at the expense of someone else. Okay, so that's an important part. I'm not talking about like, if you're receiving certain benefits from the government because of whatever situation that you happen to be in. Like, let's say you're a widow or something and you receive dividends from your husband's estate. I don't know how it works legally, but that would not be harming anyone, right? Because that's like money that is allotted to you and it's your legal right to claim that. But I'm talking about situations where like you are benefiting from something, or you are living the soft life, you're getting what you want at the expense of someone else, usually an individual or maybe another woman. If you are directly causing the suffering of another person or another woman that doesn't deserve it, who is innocent, then you wouldn't feel good about that, right? In your heart, if you knew that that was the reason why you were receiving your benefits. So it's best to, try to think of a example. I can't think of many. Well, it's kind of like, okay, so this is not the exact scenario I was thinking about, but let's say that you have a good friend that like has always been loyal to you and always been there for you in your time of need, and maybe they are being questioned by the law for something they did that was in a gray area. Like, let's say they were dealing drugs or something on the side, but it has nothing to do with you. However, maybe the prosecutor or the investigator turns up to your house and starts to like interrogate you and tries to ask you questions about your friend so that you can implicate your friend. Like, maybe in that scenario, you stay silent, right? Or you say that, okay, I'm not authorized, or I'm not going to give any statement, so you can talk to my lawyer instead. And so in that sense, like, I'm not saying that it's not your responsibility at the end of the day to protect anyone else for consequences of their own actions, of course. But I'm just saying, like, if you can get out of making a statement that directly implicates your friend, let's say that they offer you like a ton of money to rat on your friend, essentially, and you're not involved in this operation at all. Okay, this is some trouble that your friend got in by herself. But the thing is that as far as your relationship with her goes, maybe like she's never done anything wrong towards you, and you guys have never betrayed each other or anything like that. So in that scenario, like, you wouldn't want to sell out your friend just to get some short-term payout, right? So if you have the choice to do so without also getting embroiled in the case, maybe you just decide to stay silent, or you get a lawyer, you get legal counsel that tells you what to do in order to not get involved in the case, and therefore like not make things harder for your friend than they already are, if that makes sense. So that would be a way of like rejecting a scenario where you are benefiting directly at the expense of someone else. I don't know if it was the best example, but that's all I could come up with on the spot. Yeah, try to look for scenarios or pendulums that you can engage with in which you have this overlap. It's like I scratch their back and they can scratch my back. I call this the sweet spot, right? And then sometimes you will have offshoots of this type of situation. For example, if you, like me, if you find a side gig gig that happens to pay you, but then you're also providing some labor for them in exchange, but it happens to be in an industry that's outside of like your main job that you're also interested in. So you're gaining knowledge about that industry. Like in my case, I'm kind of interested in real estate, but I'm definitely not at the point where I think that, okay, I want to pivot my career or anything like that. But I'm interested. I want to learn about the state of affairs. And I'm especially interested in the pool of buyers here in Japan that would be actually like the ones that physically buy real estate in Dubai, right? So sometimes there will be offshoots of the sweet spot situations that you can also opt to engage in as well. But you also, every time that an offshoot opportunity presents itself to you, you have to make a different assessment on whether or not it's worth your time, right? So let's say, for example, offshoot number one could be like an after party to a certain event that you attended, and maybe there is a particular individual of interest, like a CEO or just whatever, someone in your network that you've been looking to talk to, or you've been looking for the opportunity for a one-on-one chance to have a conversation with them about a certain topic. If they are going to go to the after party, maybe you decide to tag along as well. And that's going to be it's going to be an additional way for you to gain even more value out of the situation. But then sometimes the offshoots are not valuable at all. And in those cases, you should probably decline. For example, in the Dubai real estate seminar, some of the people, I don't know if they actually went, but they were talking about, because it was on Friday, I think. I remember these are Japanese real estate agents that live and work in Dubai, and they travel here periodically for those real estate seminars. So they also, like every time they're in Tokyo, I imagine they want to make the most out of what they can get in terms of not just work, but they want to like go clubbing or whatever. And I think they were talking about, oh yeah, we should go clubbing. So for me, that's not something that will bring any extra value to me. I'm not looking to go clubbing with a bunch of 20-year-olds. There's going to be no benefit to that for me, except for just depleting my energy on the weekends that I could use for something else that's more productive, like making videos or something, right? And also, like, I wouldn't go to a club anyway unless I was getting paid to be a bottle girl or something. That's my personal philosophy with clubs, though. It may be different for you, though. Like, let's say maybe you want to get into the entertainment industry, or you want to go to a certain club that you've always been interested in, then okay. And maybe this group of people, they can help get you in for free or get you into a VIP section. If that's valuable to you, if that's an experience that you're seeking out to do, then maybe you say yes, okay? But it just depends. Like, my point is, every time you go to a new event or you engage in a relationship with a new pendulum, we'll put it that way, there's always going to be like offshoots and additional situations or additional, oh my God, what's the word? I can't think of it. Supplementary, my dear Watson. I don't think that's even a quote from Sherlock Holmes. I just made that up. But yeah, there's going to be supplementary events, and like maybe you get invited to another event, right? Maybe you go to an event and you rub shoulders with people and you hit it off with some of them, and maybe one of the hot shots or one of the ones that have actual power, maybe one of the high net worth individuals that you meet at this original event invites you to another event because they like your vibe or they feel like you have things in common. So you can choose to go to that as well to further even expand your circle and your social climbing endeavors. Whew, it's so hot. Okay, let me put on a lip. So I got this from Laka. So what happened is that I did 2 different shifts. Both of them were on Friday back in May. So it was like 2 Fridays. And that was a lot better to me, honestly, than the first time that I did this, which was back in November of last year, because the November gig was back to back from Friday to Saturday. I don't remember the exact dates, but yeah, I realized that I definitely fared a lot better when it was just like a one day a week or one and done, like not having to do it back to back and then still earning the same amount. It was 20,000 yen per day. So the first day was definitely my favorite. It was like my ideal scenario. If that had been my first experience at all with this side gig, then I would have been a lot happier and like, I guess, I don't know, less traumatized than I was, because I don't know if you remember the first company that I did it with in November, the agents were like really, really unfriendly. And so far, okay, that was company J, right? So let's do a recap. Company D is the developer on site in Dubai. It's one of the biggest developers there. And company J was like one of the local real estate firms, or it was the firm that was still based in Dubai, but they dispatched Japanese agents to Japan to these events so that they can cater specifically to Japanese clientele because, you know, they're bilingual and all of that. And then company A was the one that I did the 2 events with on the Fridays in May this past month. So company A, like if you remember from the last live stream, I told you that one of the girls, I actually came across her TikTok as I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to take this gig. And I really, really liked her vibe in her TikTok because she was just talking about how, like, you know, she was in the middle of her career as a real estate agent, and the fact that she switched over to this firm in Dubai. She was talking about how it's kind of a crazy time to be in her field of work because the whole conflict with Iran and everything started shortly after she moved to Dubai from Tokyo. I think she went to school in the States for a period of time, and she told me that she used to work in LA for a different real estate firm before she took this job with the company A. So company J was the real estate firm from the November seminar that I was not a fan at all of their agents. And then company D, the head salesperson here is Miss Piggy, remember? So she's like the villain in this whole story. Not the villain, honestly, like she wishes she was important enough to be a villain, but she's more like a thorn in the side. So literally like Miss Piggy, exactly what I decided to name her is what characterizes her. But yeah, she definitely is kind of ruining this whole experience for me, even though like she can't ruin anything for me because this is not even that serious to me. Like I literally go to these things so that I can afford to buy Blend Bunny pellets. Okay, I'm not going to this because I necessarily need it for my livelihood, but that just makes it all the more egregious to me about the way that like they were so unpleasant. And I will get more into how Miss Piggy was on the second day, but it just makes me like, again, so over it with most people. Like I'm not playing nice anymore. I'm not even bothering to be cordial anymore, to be honest, with most people. Obviously, I'm not going to be rude, but if I feel like there's a situation where somebody is just not getting it, or like I know from the get-go that this person doesn't even have the ability to have empathy for other people and their situations, I'm not even going to pretend or bother to put up any sort of pretense. I'll literally just ghost them or something. That's what I've been doing so far in 2026, and it's been working out great for me. I've been getting a lot of sleep, a lot of beauty sleep. I have so much time to focus on my skincare and play with my cat, and it's honestly been amazing for my mental health. But I'm not giving them the courtesy anymore of just giving them the runaround or like a graceful exit. Like, no, I just literally leave people on red or exit the situation. No explanation from me needed, because if the other party doesn't even have like the basic amount of EQ or human empathy to interact with others in a way that acknowledges the dignity of every human being, then why should I extend any grace to you, you know? So I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, I literally went to these past 2 seminars in May just so that I could like make some extra money for myself, because I wanted to blend bunny pellets. Okay, so it's really not that serious to me. But what if I did need it though? That's the thing that kills me. It's like, okay, what if I was like a struggling single mom? Technically I am, because I have a baby, Maxine, okay, who I birthed. But no, like what if I really was a struggling single mom just trying to make ends meet and working like a bunch of odd jobs? What if I didn't have, because that's the thing, they don't know the details of my situation either. So for all I know, maybe that's what they thought I was doing in the first place, right? Like maybe they thought, oh, she's just one of those temp employees that works a lot of odd jobs like this. But that makes it even worse though, because it's like, okay, so even when you're like faced with someone that you can tell is just struggling and trying to make an honest day's living and trying to pay her bills and everything, even with that, you don't have like the common courtesy or kindness to just be normal. You have to still approach everything with this sort of condescending air. And it's like, it's fine because that's not the situation that I am in, right? I'm doing this as a way to earn extra pocket money. And also the fact that they assume that I'm younger too. So maybe that's another reason why they feel like they don't need to be nice or cordial. But it's like, if I really was struggling though, that would make you look even worse as a person. Not that it's excusable now, just because like I don't need this job, but what if I really needed it? And yet you're still like going out of your way to try to make me feel less than, or like make the experience unpleasant for me. Why? Just because you're miserable? Just because you have hierarchical thinking, so you can't imagine a world, you can't imagine a working situation where you treat everyone as an equal? You have to like, because the thing is, I don't think they even notice that they're acting this way, or maybe I shouldn't even give them this grace, but it was just astonishing to me. Like the more and more times that I did this, which, okay, technically, yes, I've only done it 3 times so far, but I've already kind of caught on to the gist of like, oh, okay, so this is really how you guys are as people, as your core. I don't want anything to do with you. I would never have anything to do with you outside of this situation. Like you would never even, I would never give you the time of day if we just happen to bump into each other in person. Like there's nothing of your life or the way that you do work, the way that you interact with people that I want to emulate. There's nothing that you have for me. And so if it wasn't for this work situation that I'm being paid to be here, I would never even give you the time of day. Like you could never reach me. I would never respond to you, even if you tried. So it's just crazy how, like, I don't know, the way that they are so unaware of themselves. And I'm like, you realize that anything could happen at any time, right? Like you realize that your situation or your status is not guaranteed, you know, like your industry, even just now with the whole Iran situation, your industry is on thin ice, in case you haven't noticed. So that doesn't mean that there's not still people that are interested. Like there's always going to be, when it comes to real estate, there's always going to be people that have the means, or they have like long-term thinking to where they might find it valuable to buy real estate in Dubai right now when the situation is shaky, so that they can, you know, sell it later for more when everything stabilizes or when the whole conflict blows over. Like there's always going to be buyers, but I would just think that you would operate with a little more humility, like working in an industry that's so volatile that it's not guaranteed that you're going to be making the same commissions that you did even just 2-3 years ago, because the situation, you know, the political situation is ever evolving, and that directly impacts your business, you know, and you don't know, like at some point you might have to pivot, even just due to personal circumstances, right? Like we all know the statistic. I think they have a statistic which is probably a little bit outdated by now, but I remember hearing that the average person changes careers, like they change industries 6 times over the course of their entire professional working life. And so you really don't think that you're shooting yourself in the foot here by the way that you treat some people, just because you think that, you know, you don't have to extend a certain level of grace or a certain level of courtesy to people that you deem as the help. Okay, but what if it was like, you know, not to quote a cliche drama storyline or anything, but what if I was the daughter of someone super rich, or what if I happened to marry a billionaire in the future, and then now you've just blacklisted yourself from being able to do business with my husband or my network, because like now I'm going to make sure that no word comes your way if I ever reach that position, because you were not pleasant to me when I was working as just a humble, you know, helper, as a humble assistant at one of your previous events. Like, is it worth it? I mean, I feel like it's so simple that it sounds stupid to even repeat here, but treat people the way that you would want to be treated. Like, treat everyone with respect, from the janitor to the CEO. Is it that hard? Like, I just can't believe that there's people out there that seem to have not gotten this memo. You never know what the situation is going to be like tomorrow, a year, 2 years from now. What if I marry a billionaire? What if my YouTube channel takes off and I become a millionaire of my own accord? What if I become financially in the position, you know, by whatever means? What if in a couple of years I'm in the position financially to start looking at certain real estate investments that I want to make in Dubai? So now you're definitely not going to get my business. I'm going to go out of my way to give my business to someone else, because I remember the way that you acted when we collaborated at this point in time on an event, and you decided to treat me a certain way based on my position, you know, my lower status as the help, right? Yes, I understand even now, like the only reason that I'm not affected by this is because I actually have like a regular career, my own, you know, day job, full-blown bona fide career that I'm proud of, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But if I wasn't in that position, if I was someone that was in a more precarious position, if I was a freelancer or a temp worker, then I would have to, I don't know, I feel bad for people in those positions because they have to put up with people that have this type of entitled, pretentious attitude, and there's like little that they can do about it because they're just not at that place financially or career wise yet where they have the flexibility to brush off certain people like this. So that's why it's so important. I take it as like a reminder, right? I'm not just gonna stew in the negativity. I take it as a reminder that this is why it's all the more important to build up your funds, build up your FU money, and strengthen your own network, and you have to always be out there, you know? You have to always get yourself back out in the ring and continue to cultivate your network and your assets on all fronts because, you know, first of all, it's just a good plan in terms of solidifying your stance in life overall, or just making sure that like you're always in a better position than you were yesteryear. You want to make sure that 10 or 20 years out from now, you're in a better position, obviously, than you are in the present. But also, unfortunately, I'm realizing more and more that actually another core motivation for that is to protect yourself from unpleasant people like this. As long as you make sure that you're good and your situation is always stable, then you always have the power and you'll have more leverage in situations like this. Like for me, for example, at any point during any of the seminars, I could have walked out if I really felt like the disrespect was reaching a level where I refused to deal with it. I didn't have to necessarily write it out. I wouldn't have gotten paid, obviously, but if I felt like, okay, you know what, fuck this, I'm not dealing with these people anymore, like this is just too much. I'm not going to, you know, stay in a place where people think that they can treat the helping hands this way. I could have walked out and forfeited the 20,000 yen a day fee that I was getting paid, and it would not have hurt me whatsoever. It would have been annoying, obviously, the fact that I already invested a certain amount of time and energy to get there and set up and everything. But I always had the option to just be like, okay, F it. If you don't want to play nice, if you don't want to give basic respect to people, then I'm just not going to be here. And yeah, let's see how you handle the rest of the day by yourself without the help that you so look down on. Let's see you handle all the activities by yourself now without my help. I could have done that at any moment and it would have been fine, right? Because it doesn't impact like my main job or my main source of income. But it's just sad to me because I know there's so many people and women in particular that are not necessarily in that position. They can't say no. There's women that like they have to make sure that they write it out or they stick it out in some unfavorable employment situation because their survival just simply depends on it. So, you know, I don't want any woman to be in that situation. And even if that's where you are right now, I don't want you to stay there for long. And I don't want you to think that this is just your lot in life and that there's nothing you can do about it. No, if you put one step in front of the other every single day and take deliberate steps to improving your situation every day, if you strategize and consciously make sure that every step you take brings you towards a better situation, eventually you're going to get there. Okay, trust me. And I'm not just saying that to try to, you know, bring fake positivity and all of that. It's just a law of physics, okay? Even if you, like if you're trying to dig a hole or if you're trying to clean a sink with a toothbrush, yeah, that's kind of inefficient and you probably could get more coverage if you use a sponge or something. But if all you have is a toothbrush and you have to clean this sink, you can clean the sink with the toothbrush. It's just going to take longer, you know? You're just going to cover less ground. But as long as you steadily clean like every square inch or every square centimeter, eventually you're going to cover the whole sink. Okay, so don't even worry about, I know this is why they always try to psych us out with the running out of time narrative as well for women, and you gotta be mentally resilient against that. It's not to say ignore time altogether. Like, yes, you need to be, you know, conscious of not staying in one place for too long, especially a place where they don't even deserve your presence. But sometimes, right, a lot of times there's not a lot you can do in certain situations. So if you know that time, like if you know realistically that, okay, I'll probably have to stay at this job or I'll probably have to suck it up for at least 8 months or a year, then just whatever, just do it. But make sure that you don't stay for a minute longer than the minimum amount of time required for you to get out of that situation into a better one. Okay, but with that being said though, let me just get through like some of the details of the events. So the first day, actually Miss Piggy was not there for the first day. It was kind of a different event. So it was Company A and Company D, but there was a different lady from Company D and she was actually like super cool and we got along really well. She actually took a huge liking to me. So there was a different lady from Company D. I forget her actual title, but she was like Chinese national, I believe. Kind of like similarly to me, she had worked and lived in Japan for 15 years, and now she's living in Dubai working for company D. So that lady was super chill. The younger real estate agent from company A was also really nice, and she didn't have any of those. See, this is how I know that like it's not me, okay? It's important for you to, especially if you're if you're still in that people pleasing phase, or you're still trying to find your confidence, it's important for you to expose yourself to different types of people to collect concrete proof for yourself that if person A treated me horribly and was awful and condescending to me, but person B, C, D, and E were perfectly nice to me and they got along with me and they like me, then who's the problem? Person A. It's just statistics, right? So it's not that you are unlikable or that you can't do anything right. It's just that that bitch, person A, has some issues of her own that have nothing to do with you that she's projecting onto you. That's all it is. Because why? If it was you, then why wouldn't every single person have an issue with you? I didn't have an issue with anyone else except for Miss Piggy. And I don't have an issue with Miss Piggy either. She has an issue with me. But anyway, regardless. So everyone, company A was like really cool. And the other lady, the Chinese lady from company D was also really nice. And like for some reason, so she didn't really, the Chinese lady from company D, I don't want to call her the Chinese lady. We should give her a name. We'll just call her Big Sis. That's kind of the vibes that she was giving me because she was a little bit older, like 39. So yeah, we'll call her Big Sis from company D. She was at both events, but Miss Piggy was only at the second Friday event. Are you following? So the first time, I think Big Sis, she like couldn't really tell whether I was part of the hotel staff or what was my exact role. But then like I explained to her later on, I was like, oh no, I was dispatched by the event company to help you guys, like to help man the reception area and collect the business cards of all the attendants and everything. So then the second Friday, all of a sudden she was like really interested in me, and she was like, oh, I didn't know that you were like Chinese American too. I thought you were just another, Japanese member of the hotel staff. She was really getting all up in my face actually on the second day, but it wasn't in any sort of malicious way. She was just like, oh my god, wow, can you tell me like where do you get your makeup? Where do you get your eyelashes? I was wearing these niche blooming lashes that are my favorite, and she was like, oh my god, I love your earrings. It wasn't these, but it was like another pair of Shein earrings. And I told her, I was like, oh, do you know Shein? It's so cheap. Like they were literally like 200 yen. She was like, oh, can you, next time if you order from Shein, can you order those for me? Because they're so cute. Like I'll pay you back. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, like you don't even have to pay me back. It's literally 150 yen. I actually have her earrings, but she's in Dubai now. So I don't think she's coming for the July seminar. Maybe I should ask her because she wanted me to exchange WeChat IDs with her. So I'm a friend with her now on WeChat, which is like the Chinese messaging app. I felt really good like after we had a chance to talk more at the second seminar, because she also said something to me that I felt like, I'm sure she was just being nice and it probably wasn't that serious to her, but she said to me, she was like, I don't think you'll ever have a problem finding a job anywhere, because I think you have so many talents and skills. Like, yeah, I think you always have skills that you can transfer into any job. You should not be having any problems at all finding a job or a way to make a living. That was what she said to me, because we were just kind of talking about the job market in general. And, obviously I told them that I have a day job, but I'm trying to obviously move up and earn more money. Obviously, I'm trying to increase my salary and all of that. And I was asking them questions about real estate and like how volatile is it, or how do you feel about it so far, etc. So we were just having that conversation, and I'm really thankful because she said to me, she just stopped at some point in the conversation and she was like, yeah, I don't think someone like you would ever have a problem getting hired in any industry, like anywhere you want to go, anything you want to do. I think that you'll be fine. You'll always find a job. Like there's always going to be someone that wants to hire you because like you're so skilled and you're so charismatic. Her and also the younger girl from company A, she was also really sweet to me. Like we also had a chance to talk. I felt like she kind of just spoke a really positive spell over me in that moment, because it's not that I ever doubted myself, but yeah, that was also after I just signed my contract to switch from contract to permanent employee at my current company that I told you I wasn't really happy about because they didn't like give me the raise in salary that I wanted. So I was kind of like stewing, to be honest, at that point about about that whole fiasco. But something about when she said that to me, I felt this sense of calm wash over me. Like, oh yeah, she's right. I am the shit. I took it as positive confirmation that, okay, yeah, you are the shit and your skills are very marketable and the world is your oyster, basically. Even as fucked up as this job market is right now and as stupid as these companies are, like all these games that they want to play to try to gatekeep these high salaries from you, like they make it so difficult these days. Especially, I don't want to use like the woman card, but I think it's also has to do with the fact that I'm just a woman. Like they think that because I'm a younger woman, there's an undercurrent of this expectation that, okay, but why is she not just accepting what we're giving her? Like any other girl in her position would be jumping up and down for joy at the offer that we gave her. So why can't she just like sit down and accept the scraps that we threw her? Maybe it's in my head, okay? Maybe I'm projecting, but that's kind of the undercurrent that I feel in a lot of the conversations that I'm having with not just my current employer, but like I've been taking, outside interviews for other roles as well. And like, I don't care. On a personal level, of course, I'm not letting it affect me and it doesn't like emotionally dysregulate me for the rest of the day or anything, but it's quite annoying, right? Because I notice a pattern and they all do it. And I'm just like, are you guys really, I know that you're full of shit. Like I know you have the budget and everything to give me the salary that I want. And you also know, well, first of all, like there's no way for you to know with any candidate, no matter how sparkly their resume is. There's no way for you to like guarantee that a candidate is going to deliver the quality of work that you want. That's the whole point of having the interview and hiring somebody new. There's always that element of you're taking a chance to see if this person is actually going to deliver on what they promise. But like, how does that differ me versus like some 40-year-old guy or a white guy in the same profession that you guys would probably offer more salary to with no question, just because of like the way that he looks or the fact that he's Caucasian? The only difference is that I'm like a younger looking Asian female. So you feel like I should be okay with less. And it's causing you, I don't know, cognitive dissonance because I refuse to let the conversation continue without negotiating my worth. Hi, Silver Yayu. Glad to catch your live. I'm glad that you're here. But yeah, I'm just catching up and like having a little catch up session with you guys. So I was getting really caught up with like, oh my God, this is so annoying. And I was in my little rage quit state of mind at that point. But when she said that, she was like, yeah, Ren, I don't think you would ever have a problem finding a new career or a new job. I just felt like, wow, thank you so much. It was giving me big sis energy because I felt like she just spoke this positive spell of encouragement over me that, hey, don't remember that you are that bitch and you actually have nothing to worry about. And these companies or these hiring managers or whatever, let them talk their shit. Let them say whatever they want to say. Okay, their little verbal diarrhea about, oh, well, actually, this is quite above the market rate for this type of position. I don't really understand why you're asking for more. When they try to like argue back that, oh, but you don't really have like this and that concrete experience, so we feel that basically you should be willing to take a lower offer because this is the best that you can command with your current skill level. That's a bullshit tactic because like that's a bullshit negotiation tactic because you can't guarantee that anybody, like every position, every job is different and requires a unique solution, right? So just because somebody else has technically more relevant experience, like let's say it's a certain platform or a certain, I don't know, software, just because somebody else has concrete experience with that software, it doesn't mean that they're automatically guaranteed to do a better job than me just because like I didn't have experience with that exact software, but I have similar experience or I've worked with similar other softwares in the past. Like you never know until I actually demonstrate my performance on the job. Like maybe I'm just better at transferring my past experience to my current job than the guy that has technically a better track record on his resume. You're not going to know until you actually see my performance. So that's why like I'm unfazed when companies try to use that tactic of, oh, not enough experience or not the exact experience that we need for this role, because actually every role is a completely new situation. It's a completely unique set of challenges. And not to mention like how it fits within the company as a whole as well. Every company has a different culture and a different way that each team works with each other. So there's really no guarantee. It comes down to how good you are at advocating for yourself is what I'm trying to get at the end of the day. Like, it comes down to your negotiation skills and you being able to hold firm to the fact and the insistence that, no, I'm qualified for this job and I deserve XYZ compensation. Either you give it to me or I'm going to take my talents elsewhere to some place that recognizes me and wants to compensate me fairly. Work competency is way overrated. The hiring criteria usually are not solely based on that, even though the hiring team also always makes it sound like it. Exactly. So now that I'm like completely onto their game, and now that I'm armed with like those words of encouragement from Big Sis of Company D, I'm like, oh yeah, what was I tripping over? You're right. I'm like, thank you so much for saying that out of nowhere. Just the fact that like she said that to me when we were just having a casual conversation about, career moves in general, that was really encouraging to me because it just reminded me that, oh yeah, actually it is obvious to anyone that you meet, even someone that you just met for like a day or two. You only worked with this person for 2 days, but they can already recognize that you have a certain light and a certain sharpness in you and a certain level of competency when it comes to doing any job or any task that's laid in front of you. I'm like, yeah, this is proof that it's really readily apparent to anybody that you work with how competent you are. So you don't have to worry about that piece of the puzzle. Okay. You just have to, like, my job is not to convince my worth or argue against people who have their own agenda, which is to pay workers the least amount possible so that they can keep their profits high. That has nothing to do with, that has no bearing on an evaluation of my skills. That's their agenda. Of course, they want to pay me the lowest rate possible, and they're going to try to make it seem like it's because that's what I deserve or whatever, but I don't have to buy into that BS. And I actually know that for a fact that it's not true, because look at these strangers from a totally different industry that immediately recognize how smart and how competent I am off the bat. So that was nice. But then, yeah, so the first day it wasn't direct customers. The first day they had more of like a presentation type event. So they held 2 presentations, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And it was more for other real estate agents, like locally in Japan, who have clients that might possibly be interested in buying real estate in Dubai. So those are also like very important contacts, oftentimes even more important than direct clients, which is what the second day was. Because like with direct clients, you have to work with the person directly, and sometimes they can be wishy-washy and flighty, especially nowadays with the whole Iran situation. But the people that attended the first day, they were, again, in the real estate industry locally here in Japan. So those people, as long as Company D and Company A properly upkeeps their relationship with those people will bring in their own clients whenever the client is ready to buy certain properties in Dubai. And so it's much more of like a guaranteed transaction. So whatever happens behind the scenes, it's going to be between those people and their clients. But at the point that they bring their clients to Company D, at the point that they say, okay, we're interested and we want to buy this type of property, then by that point, it's kind of a guaranteed transaction, right? And I'm sure, the distribution of the profits might stretch a little bit more thin for everyone. But in terms of like the actual transaction, it's more guaranteed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because their clients are basically relying on them as well. They're kind of acting as consultants for their clients. As long as they have a good relationship with their clients and they're like over here doing the groundwork and the research, and they advise their clients on, okay, I think this would be a good move for you to buy this condo in, I don't know, Dubai Hills or whatever, then their clients are likely to say yes and just agree to it, because that's what they hired them for. It's to advise them on their real estate portfolio. So that was interesting. It was the first time that I had been to an event where it was mostly just other agents in the real estate industry. There was this one old guy that was like cracking me up because he kept flirting with me. Oh my God, I think I have his business card. And like, by the way, I have everyone's business cards from these past 2 events too. But now I'm kind of in the situation where I'm like, okay, what do I do with all these cards though? I'm not a real estate agent, so I can't cold call them. But there's like important people in there, you know, there's billionaires, even millionaires, there's people with private jets. But it's like, what do I do with their info though? I don't have an excuse to actually reach out to them. Nobody talks about what you do after you actually get the business card. Maybe I need to print my own business cards so that I can hand it out to them and do an exchange at the next event. But the thing is, like, if Miss Piggy is going to be there, then I'm not going to do it, because she would definitely be the type to raise a stink about that. If Miss Piggy was not there, if it was Big Sis instead from Company D, then I'm sure that they would not care. I would be able to hand out business cards. But if it's Miss Piggy, I'm sure she's the type that would like want to snitch or whatever, or block my bag. I want to find this guy's business card. So he was like, again, he was a real estate agent, and he owned his own firm, and I'm sure he has clients that are interested in buying properties in Dubai or just foreign properties in general. And I think he was one of Big Sis's contacts. Both days he showed up actually, and like he had a long consult session with her, but he kept like flirting with me every time he came to the reception. He wasn't like he wasn't touchy-feely in the sense that like he didn't reach out his hand and try to grope me or anything, but he did that thing where he kept trying to like bump into me and be like, haha, that's so funny, isn't it? And he would like elbow me. And also, like, I was serving them refreshments sometimes periodically when he was sitting with Big Sis. So like every time I would bring him a new plate of sandwiches or a new coffee, he would be like, oh my god, you're so nice, and then like try to bump into me again. And I was, by the third time that happened, I was like, okay, is this going to end in you stuffing a 10,000 yen bill into my pocket, or like, are you trying to audition to be my sugar daddy? Because like, what's the deal here? I don't have time to, like, I'm not here to just, you know, be eye candy, even though low-key I am, but this is just a trial run, right? Like I'm gonna need to see proof of funds. Oh wait, I don't think I can show you. Okay, it was this old ass guy. Hold on. On the bottom. But yeah, that was funny. But I was thinking to myself, like, okay, even if he wanted to be my sugar daddy, how would I even progress this to the next step? I'm realizing now that there's levels to this. It would have been a lot better if I had my own business card to exchange with these people, because then they could contact me, right? Because it's weird and it's like too obvious if I reach out to them for no reason out of the blue. I'm like, hey, I was the receptionist at that real estate event you went to in May, remember? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. But for now, I guess, see all these business cards, I'm going to keep them in my archives, but like, what do I do with them? Also, Japanese people are not super active on LinkedIn. Some of them are. I guess a lot of these people might be because they're working with international clients, but yeah, they're not heavy on LinkedIn as a form of professional networking and communication. So I think I do need to at some point print my own business cards. I also have to expand. Like, I think this Dubai real estate seminar circuit and the people that are drawn to it are really interesting, but it's put all my eggs in one basket. What else was I gonna say? Oh, I took a few notes. So remember I did a video on like 5 traits that I learned from high net worth individuals from the Dubai real estate seminar in November. I have like 2 or 3 other things that I noticed from these past 2 in May. So let me tell you. Okay, so I realized this time around, especially with the first event where it was mostly real estate developers and agents that had their own firms locally that were attending in order to, basically for research purposes and in order to like relay the information back to their own personal clientele. It was a more diverse group the first day. So there was a lot of it was pretty much a even mix of Japanese, Chinese, and other parts of Asia, agents from other parts of Asia. Everyone was pretty much based in Japan, I think. But yeah, in terms of like their origin country, there was a lot of Chinese and I think one guy from Thailand and probably even more. So I noticed, or this made me realize, that we're talking about high net worth individual traits right now. Right? So they're not fazed by certain labels or restrictions that society necessarily places on them. Or they get over certain labels very quickly and they just like go about their business regardless. Because usually in Japan, like depending on, you know, the event, it's really different. There's certain events that are really local where it's mostly only Japanese people. And you notice when you go to those events, like for example, this is not the best example, but because it's recent, the Buddhist seminar, and this has nothing to do with business, but I went to a Buddhist cult seminar, right? It eventually turned out to be a cult, but that would be an example of a more local event where pretty much only Japanese people go. And like, I was the only foreigner. It's fine because I can blend in and I could talk in Japanese, but I can tell the mentality is very, very, for lack of a better word, local and limited. And they really, like, when they talk to you, especially when they talk to me and they find out that I'm like foreign and I'm originally Chinese American and all of that, what I notice is that they have a lot of like preconceived notions about, like, they think that it's such a hurdle to talk to me, and they kind of treat me as if I'm sort of like exotic zoo animal or almost like a celebrity in a way, because they think that since their world is so local and they probably only interact with Japanese people in the majority of their daily life, they feel like this is something really out of the ordinary or like really special, that, wow, there's a foreigner in this meeting, so this is my chance to like ask them all these questions, when in reality it's like, obviously that's not the case, right? I'm just a human like anyone else. And okay, maybe again, it's unfathomable to them because they're the type of people that never left Japan before, and they only work in 100% Japanese companies with minimal, companies that don't have a lot of foreign employees, and they just don't have a lot of interaction with foreign people in their day-to-day lives. But then there's also like more international or bilingual events where the people that attend tend to be more well-traveled, tend to be bilingual or trilingual and all of that. So it just depending on what type of event you go to, you're going to get a vastly different kind of mindset that is dominant there. So I noticed that with the Dubai real estate seminars and a lot of business-related events that involve people of different nationalities, even though we're in Japan and it's still very conservative and there's a lot of like social norms that people need to follow for the most part, when it has to do with business, especially something like Dubai real estate, where it's kind of, a prerequisite to be someone that has a lot of assets or the financial flexibility to play in this type of arena, those types of people typically, as you may imagine, have more international experience, because in order to be able to like build that type of wealth and to build a robust enough network for yourself so that you have the resources and the connections to be able to make those money moves and venture into these blue ocean areas like foreign real estate that not a lot of people in Japan domestically are willing to do, naturally it breeds or it attracts the type of personality that doesn't really see nationality or ethnicity or things like that as a barrier to their own personal pursuits, right? So what am I getting at here? So basically, they're not fazed by these sort of social constructs that society puts in place and says that, okay, this is what separates us. If you're like a different ethnicity or a different nationality, or if you look different from someone else, then that means that they're like a different species. So there's a lot of people in Japan that do buy into that. But these people, these high net worth individuals in such industries like foreign real estate, they don't they don't buy into that rhetoric as much, I noticed, as a lot of like local Japanese people, if that makes sense, or people that haven't had a lot of overseas experience and they haven't had a lot of exposure to like non-Japanese circles. They're not fazed by, like different nationalities, different ethnicities. They're not fazed by people having an accent when they talk Japanese, and they don't have like a victim or like a second class mindset either. Whether the attendee was Japanese or Chinese or Thai or whatever, I noticed that they all carried themselves with a really, really self-assured air. They never, I didn't see any of them enter the space as if they were like too shy to be there, or they felt like they had to act like, oh, I'm a second class citizen because like I'm not Japanese, or I'm not a foreigner, so I don't really belong here in this seminar about Dubai, which is like, so far, most people in Japan don't even know where that is, or they've never thought about traveling to someplace in the Middle East. There was like none of that whatsoever. They're very self-assured in who they are. They know that like wherever they were based, even the ones that were Japanese and born and raised here, I'm assuming, and even though they have their home base and their business base and everything here, they're used to, and they're not fazed by interacting with people of different nationalities and backgrounds, because they have like a strong sense of self and they believe in, their ability to strike strike gold or to build their own success in this industry. And so I noticed that it was a very, very just like self-assured vibe that everyone brought to the seminar. It was nice. It was very grounded. It's like different from what I feel when I'm in more, for lack of a better term, homogenous Japanese scenarios. And I would use my day job as an example, but to be honest, like my company that I work with is also pretty international. Usually, so a lot of the companies that I work for, as you can imagine, they call for somebody that is more multilingual and multicultural, which is why I do well typically when I interview for these positions. So at this point in my career, like it's played out well for me because it makes sure that I typically get a good match in terms of culture every time I take on a new job or position. But in the beginning of my career, I remember I used to, like my first job right out of college was working for this really traditional Japanese company, and I was the only American working in the headquarters. So that was much more of like a monocultural, homogenous environment where I got along with everyone, and I actually even I still keep in contact with some of those people to this day on Facebook. But the thing is that you won't know unless you actively put yourself out there and seek out events that have different types of people or different types of personalities. Because imagine, okay, if I was a native Japanese person born and raised here, and then I went to work for a traditional Japanese company where they only speak Japanese, and I don't have to speak English or deal with foreign teams or anything like that. A lot of Japanese people follow that path and they don't take any initiative to venture outside of that because, well, in a lot of cases, they don't have to, right? If everything's going well and they're just, progressing at the rate that they're expecting to at their job, and if their job is not in danger of getting taken by AI or something in the next couple of years, you can see how they wouldn't find it necessary to venture out of that bubble. And they probably a lot of them you don't know what you never experienced before, right? So to them, that's their entire world. They just think that, okay, this is how it is in Japan. But it's not true though, because if they were to, let's say if something were to happen and they decided that, okay, I want to switch industries, or I can't stay here long term and I need to learn English, or I need to switch to an industry that requires me to travel to other countries, something like that, then they will realize that, okay, my previous worldview was not exactly correct. Now that they've opened their horizons and they've met all these people from other industries, and they've realized that, oh, there's actually a lot of, foreigners here that can speak Japanese and English, and they can move smoothly in between different cultures, then it kind of, what am I trying to say? Yeah, you won't know unless you seek it out in a lot of instances, right? Whether you seek it out or your circumstances push you, it's not just going to come knocking on your door when you're sitting at home doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, for me, this is not news to me because I've always been a foreigner in Japan. I came here 10 years ago, so I don't have obviously I always knew that there are lots of different kinds of people and different circles in Japan. Even last year too, I had another unique experience with the Chinese Japanese beauty pageant, which, well, now it's kind of, I don't know. I might have to do an update on my thoughts about that whole fiasco. But yeah, basically I don't have any contact whatsoever with anyone from the pageant this year, and I'm not really interested. I mean, they haven't invited me to participate in any of their future events so far, so I'm not going to reach out to them, and I'm definitely not going to pay them more money to participate in their events after I already won. I feel like that would be going backwards. But while it lasted though, I will say, I appreciate that they created a space for people like me who have connections to both Japanese and Chinese society for us to feel at home in Tokyo, right? I wouldn't know about that though if I didn't seek it out. So you have to seek it out. You can't just sit at home and feel sorry for yourself that, oh my God, I don't belong anywhere, or it's just so hard for me to fit in. No, you don't get to say that unless you go out there and try to find a place or a group or a pendulum, the title of this video, that works for you. Trust me, the world is large and vast, okay? And maybe you might come to the conclusion that actually, yeah, there is nothing in my particular city that really caters to somebody with my profile. But you won't know that either unless you go out and explore first, right? So you want to always, you want to explore to get a clear picture of the overall overall truth of the situation. You want to be able to piece together the big picture for yourself. And then once you realize what the options actually are for you, whether or not they exist in your city, then you can make your next move. Then you can strategize your next step based on what you found out. So even if you happen to be in a city where, like, let's say you're Asian, and then, I don't know, you are in some Midwest city in the US that doesn't really have a group or a place that celebrates Asian culture, then okay. And let's say that you did your best to find a group or maybe even start a group by yourself and it just never really panned out, then maybe at that point you should think about relocating to a place where you feel more comfortable in, culturally speaking, you know? Just throwing ideas out there. But yeah, so that was the first thing I noticed about the attendants, especially for the first day, that they were really confident in who they were, and they were not afraid, they were not fazed at all by having to interact with like people from different nationalities. And to them, it was normal to them, and it was a necessity of their industry. And that's what I like. So that was another positive point to me as well. It was a sign to me that, okay, yeah, this is like somewhat my people, you know, not in terms of, not for socializing purposes necessarily, but business wise, I was like, okay, I like the vibes of this. Like, these people are on my same wavelength and they have the same mentality as I have when it comes to leveraging geopolitics, if you will, leveraging your ethnicity or your nationality to work for you in business. These people had that skill down pat, and that's something that I'm also like trying to maximize at this point in my own career. So that was great. The second thing that I learned this time is that, so high net worth men have the option to, I put acquire here, I don't know why I use the word acquire, but they have the option to rub shoulders with and meet women in any environment that they choose to. But the thing is, so they have like more options, obviously, than the average Joe Schmo. The more financial flexibility that they have, the more freedom that they have to meet women in any environment, right? Like, if you're a celebrity or a millionaire or a billionaire, then you can basically have any girl that you want. You know, you can go to any fashion show, and if you like a certain model, there's a way for you to get her number and maybe convince her to go on a date with you if you're a millionaire or a guy of high means, or if you have a lot of connections in the industry. We already know this. However, I noticed, and again, this is not anything new, but they will still go with the path of least resistance whenever it is more convenient for them. So they're still going to go with the most convenient option, which happens to be women in their immediate proximity. So that includes their female coworkers or female cohorts of whatever rooms that they happen to be in. And I noticed this because, well, on a personal level, I noticed when like that guy was randomly flirting with me, even though I was just like an assistant receptionist dispatched by a third-party company. I'm not even directly affiliated with company A or company D, but because I happen to physically be there in that room, what's he gonna hit on but the closest available option, right? Like, I happen to be there and I happen to be cute, so he's gonna hit on me because he already happens to be there for business. He's not gonna go out of his way to go to some club in Roppongi, you know, at 3 a.m. on a Thursday, where I'm sure there's like millions and millions, not millions, but there's dozens of other gorgeous girls in any club that you step into on a random weekday in the high foot traffic nightlife spots in Tokyo. But a lot of times, like, high net worth individuals or high value men, whatever you want to call them, they are very busy, right? They have to naturally allocate a lot of their time and their attention to their business and business activities. So what do? They kill two birds with one stone, right? They're going to be on the lookout, even if they're at a business event, for pretty women or the women that fit their type. So that's why it's important for us to, again, reach out of our comfort zone and place ourselves in certain rooms that have the certain caliber of guy that we would want to, if not enter into a relationship with, but we would want to have, you know, access to those types of guys, just because they can have any woman that they want, right? They can be, what's that guy? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Not Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. I know nothing about sports. Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. His wife, he met her when she was like working at a club or something, right? Was she a sales rep? Yeah, she was a sales assistant when when she first met him, but she has a history of also working in the clubs before that. So there are maybe 1 in a million cases like that where you just happen to be in the right place at the right time and a rich guy like plucks you out of obscurity, but that's not the norm, and you shouldn't bank on that for your success story in dating, right? If you're the type of woman that's looking for a high net worth man or like a man that owns his own business, you shouldn't rely on the one-off chance that he's gonna like come across you in your, you know, minimum wage job as a retail worker. Not that there's anything wrong with that as a stepping stone, but you will have a better chance. You will increase your chance for success if you take it upon yourself to proactively gain access to the certain rooms that these men are in already, because more than likely they're going to want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. Why would they go out of their way to go after the pretty sales assistant girl when they can just go after the woman that's directly in front of them at whatever business event that they're attending? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, and also side note, sorry, I'm trying to like get everything out in one go. Whew, we are almost at 3 hours. Okay. Yeah, so the thing that prompted me to write down this note is that I was overhearing a conversation between 2 of the agents from company A. So one of the guys, I told you one of the girls was like younger and she was on TikTok, right? She was cool, but okay, there was this other guy that is, I think he's the director of company A in Dubai, and he's like half Japanese and half South Asian. I'm gonna try to be a little bit vague, or maybe I'll just, I don't know, put this live in membership later like I always do. But the half Japanese guy, he grew up in Dubai. He doesn't have native Japanese skills. He told me that he learned it just recently. So I guess, yeah, like I don't think he ever grew up in Japan is what I'm trying to say. I think he grew up in Dubai, and it seems like his dominant culture is more the South Asian side, if that makes sense. And I don't like to generalize or, you know, feed into stereotypes, but I do have to say this one thing. I work off of pattern recognition. Okay. So I don't go into interactions with people assuming that they're going to inhabit or exhibit stereotypical traits of any group. However, I'm always aware. Okay. I have in the back of my mind just as data that, for example, like certain men from this country or from South Asia tend to have certain traits or behaviors that they exhibit more often than not. Okay. So I don't go into interactions with every single South Asian man expecting him to be a certain way. However, I must say in a lot of times they do confirm the pattern that I have observed over time with the majority of guys from that group. And so if that happens to be the case, then I feel like that's not on me, right? It's on them because they basically just fit into the stereotype. Okay, what am I getting at here? So I don't know if you guys remember Gingerbread Man from my last trip to Dubai. I'm thankful that he financed a lot of my activities that time, but he was also from another South Asian country. And I realized that I can say this to you guys because we're all girls in here, right? I'm not a fan of South Asian men at all. My South Asian girlies, I love you down, okay? Not talking about the girlies. South Asian girlies are some of the baddest that ever did it. Bhavita Mandava, anyone? Who's that girl from Cat's Eye? I'm not a fan of Cat's Eye. I think that their branding is kind of creepy, honestly. Like, it gives like sex doll, and I really don't like it. Primarily for the fact that a lot of the members were really, really young. I think even one member was not even of legal age when they first started out. So I don't like the fact that they're branded as, I'm sorry to use this term, but to me, the immediate phrase that comes in my mind is sex doll. After just looking at, I only watched Gnarly because I think they performed it at some awards show. So I just went ahead to look at their Gnarly music video to see what it was all about. And like, I don't understand. I don't know. It was very, very overly sexual and I was not comfortable with it. So anyway, not to get off on a tangent on why I don't F with K-pop, but I do like that girl, Laura Raj. Okay. So I'm not talking about the girls, but South Asian men, I have noticed that I feel like they're very insecure, you know, and I'm not saying that this is their fault, right? Because we live in a society and just like women and women of certain minority or ethnic groups have unique challenges to dating, like unique to women of that group, or women that if you look a certain way, if you have a certain phenotype, like I hate that we have to have these discussions, but it's true, right? There's certain challenges for each group. Just like women have challenges, men also have challenges. And I feel like South Asian men, they're very aware of their low desirability on the sexual market value scale. And I feel that a lot of them like try to overcompensate in their attitudes. It comes across as, it feels like a defense mechanism, like the way that they talk, they come across very arrogant sometimes. And it's almost like, it's like, obviously I'm a really attractive woman. So like most of the time when I'm talking to guys, especially if they're around my same age or they're older than me and like you can tell that they're attracted to me, they'll do the normal thing, like they'll compliment me about, oh, you look so beautiful, or they'll try to like do something nice for me, like treat me to lunch. Even gay guys, right? Like I have a gay manager that I meet with for lunch bi-monthly, and then even him, he'll like offer to pay for my lunch more often than not, and he's always like complimenting me on my outfits and my nails and stuff. So I feel like that's like normal, right? If you're a guy and you see an attractive girl and you just want to compliment her or let her know that you think she's attractive. But when it comes to South Asian men, I feel like obviously they're attracted to me, but then they have this chip on their shoulder that they already know, like in their minds, they think like, oh, she's gonna reject me because I'm South Asian, and we're not, you know, like we're always rejected first in the dating market. I feel like they don't want to, they like withhold their compliments, if that makes sense. Or they, even if they compliment you, it's kind of in a begrudging sort of way. And it's just very like insecure, and it gives very overcompensating. So that was the vibes that this guy from company A gave me. He's kind of like the director, I guess. But he's 2 years younger than me, actually. So that's another thing that I don't like, the ones that are around my age either. Because sometimes the older ones are okay, because the older ones are already like settled into their masculinity, and they already probably have a certain amount of success in their careers and whatnot that gives them just the natural confidence that a lot of the younger guys don't. So I feel like I was getting the same vibes from this guy from company A, and I really didn't like it, and I was really just over it by the second day. I also noticed because I was like researching the real estate firm on Instagram earlier. I always do my research before I go to events to gather as much intel as I can beforehand. That's another way to kind of like mentally prepare yourself, especially if you're a girl, if you're someone who has social anxiety or whatnot, which I hate it when you guys say that, by the way. Like, I feel like, okay, I understand it's a real thing, but I don't like it when you guys say that as just a cop-out or an excuse to not do things. Come on, everyone has social anxiety. It's not easy for anyone. Like most people, it's not easy for them per se to just walk into a room of strangers and start socializing and striking up a conversation with everyone. The difference between the ones that do it and the ones that don't is that we don't let that hold us. We don't let the excuse of having social anxiety hold us back from putting ourselves out there to try and, you know, build our networks and build our social circle. But anyway, if you have social anxiety, right, or if you feel like, it just takes a lot of mental bandwidth for you to navigate certain social situations, that's one way that you can regulate your nervous system, is just by doing as much research as possible beforehand on the venue, the organizers of the event, the people that are going to be there. You know, don't stalk them, obviously, an unnatural amount, but if they have public pages like LinkedIn or Instagram pages or whatever. So in this example, we're talking about real estate, right? Most real estate agents have to have a social media presence. It's kind of not even an option anymore at this point, because most people look at real estate through social media. They look at videos of walkthroughs and things like that on TikTok, on Instagram. So if you want to be a successful agent, if you want to get your name out there and advertise properly to potential clients, you kind of have to be on social media. But yeah, anything that you can do to research beforehand and like arm yourself with knowledge about people that are attending the event or the people that are throwing the event, you should do that beforehand. That'll help mitigate your social anxiety. So yeah, I saw this guy's, what are we going to call him? What would be a good nickname for him? He's like the opposite of Gingerbread Man, because Gingerbread Man was really short, but this guy is actually quite tall and like bigger in stature. Not fat, but heftier. Pillsbury Doughboy. No, I think that's mean. But now that it's in my mind, I can't unthink it. So we'll call him Doughboy. Okay. Doughboy, I saw some of his reels on Instagram before attending this event, and I think he has slight red pill leanings because I saw him like repost Andrew Tate once on his Instagram, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I didn't want to prejudge. So I'm like, let me just meet these people first, right? As long as they don't make my job harder, as long as this proves to be a beneficial business connection, I was fine with it. And in the beginning, it was okay because like in the beginning, he has the typical like laid back attitude of what you would expect from a Dubai local. So I appreciated that part. And also, he wasn't, him and the other girl from company A, I appreciated that they weren't total asshats the way that Miss Piggy was, and like they didn't try to talk down on me or berate me or like ask me to serve them drinks the way that Miss Piggy was the second day. I'll get into that in a bit. But so I was like, okay, maybe, like obviously I'm not interested in these people for any type of personal relationships, but I thought like after I met Doughboy in person, I thought like, okay, at least he has, again, that South Asian guy attitude of like overcompensating, right? Like trying to mask the fact that he knows that his group is the least desirable on the dating market by acting as if, I don't know, like he was trying to act like big man on campus. Because I think in his mind, he's like, well, I'm working with all these hot Asian girls, so that must mean that it's proof that I'm the shit. That was the kind of attitude I was getting from him. But again, I was like, you know what? If he likes Asian girls, if he likes East Asian girls, I'm going to use that to my advantage in case there's some way that he can benefit me in my career, right? So I was just asking him questions about like, oh, what do you think about this niche that you're in? Like, how is it going to survive the Iran situation? And then he was like, yeah, I've been doing this for the past 10 years, or no, 7 years. He's been in real estate for 7 years. And I was asking him like, yeah, kind of in a joking way, but like half joking, half serious. I was asking if they had any open positions in their company in case I wanted to like move to Dubai tomorrow. It would be nice if I could have basically a guaranteed job somewhere. And he was like, yeah, we're hiring, like send me your resume and I'll send it to our HR person, right? And then like I ended up not interviewing because I don't know, it was weird. The HR person tried to call me and then I left her on red for 2 days because I was busy with my actual job, my day job. But then once I replied to her, she stopped replying to me. So okay, that's fair enough, whatever. Maybe I dropped the ball. But I didn't like how, like at first I thought, okay, this is good because at least it's giving me another connection. It's giving me another option if I really wanted to, right? Or if I had to pivot industries, or I don't know, if Japan gets blown up tomorrow, if Mount Fuji erupts, then I have like an exit plan. But then I realized that like halfway through, I was like, okay, I don't think this Doughboy actually could help me in any significant way. Number one, because he's like too young. And then number two, I think he's still in that phase where like he just wants to revel in the fact that he's working in an industry where there's a lot of attractive women around him. And I think he enjoys the fact that he gets to be around a lot of, because female real estate agents are really attractive usually. And also like people who apply for receptionist jobs like me, we're also typically really attractive. That's like a big part of why we get hired, to be eye candy, essentially. It is what it is, right? And I think he gets off on that because he gets to, pause it as if he's surrounded by all these attractive women off of his own merit, when in actuality, it's just a perk of the industry that he's in. It's not because he's charismatic or anything. And then like, I didn't like it when like the second day when I walked in, when I was already at the reception desk and then he walked in, it was in the morning, right before the event started, and he was like trying to do a fist bump with me. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that gesture means. I don't fist bump with men. I'm not one of your bros. Okay. So that's when I realized, I was like, oh, okay. So he's just like kind of playing along, and like, he doesn't really have any genuine intent to help me with my career or to connect me with anyone in this industry. He just likes the fact that he has another like attractive girl to add to his phone book, but he doesn't really have any intent or power even to help me. So then I ignored him because I think he also wanted me to like follow up with him on stuff, and I'm not doing that. Okay, I basically just asked him, do you have any open positions or freelance positions in your company? Because I would love to like do something on the side, even not just these seminars, but if they needed like admin work or some, because he told me that they didn't have somebody on the ground in Japan, like even all of their Japanese agents, including him, I guess he's technically a Japanese national as well. They are based in Dubai, right? So he was like, yeah, I've been thinking about having 1 or 2 employees on the ground here in Japan. So I asked him, I was like, yeah, maybe you can keep me in mind if you need someone, even if it's just like on a part-time or a contract basis. I'm interested in like learning more about the industry or whatever. Like I'm trying to, why not? I thought it was worth a shot to just keep that option open in case I needed or I wanted to do something on the weekends to bring in extra revenue. It would pay better than these daily gigs at the reception desk for sure, So anything that can help me stack my FU fund, right? That's what my priority is these days. But yeah, I realized later that he was kind of just going along with it because he liked the idea of another attractive girl chasing after him, even if it was just for career talk. So I stopped doing that when I realized that, oh, this guy's like wanting me to chase him, because I noticed that he started to watch I posted, I normally don't post at all in WhatsApp, but because I was like doing the Dubai stuff and I was also communicating with Big Sis from Company D, I was more active on WhatsApp that week. And I was also going back and forth with the girl from the event planning agency so that she could pay me my wages through PayPal, right? So like I posted 1 or 2 stories of my outfit of the day on my stories, and I noticed that like he watched them. Every time I posted a story, he would watch it within like 5 seconds. But it's like, oh, okay, you're not gonna reach out to me though to follow up on anything because you want me to reach out to you because you like the feeling of having attractive girls reach out to you, even though they have to, because it has to do with work. So it's not because I like you or you're attractive or anything like that. It's just because, I thought that you could make a connection for me or actually connect me with a side gig that can pay me some substantial money so that I can like stack my emergency fund. But if you're in it for your ego, I'm not in it to stroke any man's ego for free. You know what I'm saying? So I stopped talking to him. At the end of the day, it's still good though, because I ended up with Big Sis as a contact. So I think she might actually be the most valuable contact that I got out of this whole scenario, because she actually really likes me and she was like, vouching for me unprompted, saying that I had a lot of good skills and that I would probably be successful, or I would probably have no problem getting hired in any industry. So I think if anything hits the fan, I can always reach out to Big Sis, but I don't necessarily, the thing is like she works for Company D, right? So if I ask her to get me an in with Company D, then I would have to work with Miss Piggy too. And like, I would rather poke out my eye with an expired Can Make mascara wand than to work with Miss Piggy for my actual main job. But I think Big Sis is definitely the best contact that I gained out of this whole scenario, which kind of sucks because like, I think, a part of that is because she's Chinese. And so she likes the fact that I also have like Chinese roots. Not that that part is bad, but it kind of sucks because I also noticed this pattern that like most of the time outside of the US, you guys would be surprised, like outside of your little progressive bubble in Western multicultural areas such as the US or Canada or whatever, people are still pretty loyal and they act more, they give preferential treatment to their own racial group, essentially. Like Chinese people will help Chinese people, Koreans will help other Koreans, Japanese people will help Japanese people over any other Asian group. And like, that's just the way it is. Not for every single scenario, of course, but that seems to be the trend. And like, it kind of sucks. To be fair, I'm not just talking about Japan. I'm just talking about any non-Western area, really. Even in Dubai, right? Like it's pretty sharply divided across ethnic groups, and certain industries as well are dominated by certain ethnic groups. And people don't really, for the most part, they don't really like to overextend themselves or go out of their way to help someone outside of their own group. It kind of sucks, but that's just, we live in a society, so don't take it personally, right? Just make sure that okay, this is the way it is, so let me just get with the program, or let me just play the game in a way that benefits me the best in the end. What else? I had another note in here. Oh, okay. So, this one is pretty straightforward, but another trait of high net worth individuals is that they follow their intuition and their gut feeling and seize opportunities in niche areas that they know they're most qualified to excel in. So they don't have imposter syndrome, right? Or even if they have it, they ignore imposter syndrome and they just go after like what they know is a good opportunity. And some of them, some of them are rough around the edges, etc., but they don't care about that, right? So they're not people that are overly obsessed with their image, or like they're not overly obsessed with what other people think of them. They're just focused on bringing home the bacon and going after the opportunity. For example, one guy I saw, he was at the first event and he was like an owner of his own real estate firm here in Japan. I noticed that he was talking to the doughboy. He was like new to the Dubai real estate conversation, but doughboy was breaking down to him the current situation and the areas in Dubai that are still developing now or that have good growth potential in the future, in the next coming years. And I went over and I handed him a pamphlet, right? Because this has a map of Dubai. And then he was really, really interested and he took action really quickly. So after he exchanged information with Doughboy, he also came back for the second event the next Friday. And I just remember I was really struck by how quickly he moved. Like he got in there, he had the conversation with the expert. Once he learned enough, there was no way that within their 1 or 2 hour meeting that Doughboy could have briefed him on the entire real estate market of Dubai, but he stayed long enough and talked long enough with the experts in the field, right? Like the real estate agents that were at the event, to get whatever knowledge or whatever facts that he was after. As long as he deemed he had heard enough, or as soon as he deemed that he had enough information, he immediately went back and acted on it and reported it back to his clients. So I thought that was that really stood out to me, because it's different from, again, other people in certain other industries where it's more important to save face, right? Or maybe people that are in a fixed salary that are not in a sales position, they have different priorities. Instead of looking for the next blue ocean opportunity, they're more concerned with saving face or maintaining the status quo or doing things by the rules of the company, right? Depending on what industry and what position you're in, people approach work in very different ways. It's something that is kind of rare to see in Japan, to be honest with you, because people are usually, even in business, people are usually very, very cautious and slow moving. But it was kind of inspiring to see this guy, how quickly he moved and how much he was just ready to learn the facts of the situation, ready to learn what he needed to know in order to formulate his own strategy for staking his claim in the Dubai real estate market. So I wish all the success to him. I hope that he is able to make a sale to a client. Oh my God, we've been on for 3 hours and 20 minutes. I was going to say something else. Okay, I don't want to talk about her because she's so annoying and I don't want to let people like this live rent free in my head. But just for the sake of the debriefing, Miss Piggy was okay, I implemented a method that I'm going to call a hard reset, which is that basically if you don't like the way that an initial event went down, or if you're not satisfied with a certain interaction that you had, or maybe a certain way that people perceive you due to how you came off in an initial event, even if it was out of your control, in my case, it was kind of out of my control. The first event, it happened to be with Miss Piggy from company D, and then company J, which was really everyone was pretty unfriendly and cold to me. So a lot of that was out of my control, right? Because I was basically just thrown into a new situation that I had to adapt to really quickly. And I did, eventually, and I came out on top as always. But even though I didn't like the way that the dynamic played out the first time around, that doesn't mean that I have to just go along with it for the rest of the time. So I implemented what I like to call a hard reset, in which I basically just came in with completely new energy. And by this point, okay, so last month, the second event was the only event that Miss Piggy went to, right? So I was already on a pretty good high from the first event because I really got along with people from company A. I also got really good vibes from Big Sis of company D, right? She was in the first event, and everyone was really chill. So they didn't, they just let me do my own thing for the first event. And I did a really good job because I collected everyone's business cards and entered their information into the system. And I did what I needed to do without having to deal with stressful situations and condescending looks and whatever from people like Miss Piggy. So I was already in a good mood. I liked the dynamics that played out from the first seminar. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to carry this over to the next week, regardless of whether or not Miss Piggy is there. And she's just going to have to get on board with the new dynamic, right? Because I think in her mind, like I was still the same person from the event back in November. But this time around, I did a couple of things. The first thing I did was actually when she came in the morning, I think I was there since like 9:30, but then she came in around 10:30 and like she didn't say hi to me when she passed by me on the reception desk. I was at the reception, like I was at a desk right outside the event, the conference room. And like she looked at me, but like she didn't say hi to me. So I was like, okay, that checks out, you know, with her shitty personality. But then like later when her first client of the day came, she came out and she was like, hey, can we get some coffee? Can we get water? She literally said it like that. And then I responded to her in English this time. So instead of leading with Japanese, I led with English. And she was like, oh, wait, are you Japanese? Like, I thought you were Japanese. And I was like, oh no, I'm American, but I can speak, I'm bilingual, but like, hi, good morning. That's literally what I said to her. So I kind of like disarmed her because she had to switch to English, which of course, like she's fully bilingual because she lives in Dubai most of the time, right? So she has to be able to speak English, and also like her managers and everyone are English. But I didn't like the fact that, and I'm not saying this is the only reason, but I think because I led with Japanese last time, they kind of like fell into the cultural norm of treating me like somebody lesser than them just because I was the help. So this time around, I made it a point to like talk in English at first and refuse to answer her in Japanese. So then she was like, oh yeah, can you make coffee for us? Because at this hotel, they didn't have any of the hotel staff serve any of the food and beverages for us, but it was set up in a way that it was set up differently than the first hotel, to where like when you walked into the room, there was beverages and food on the side of the room. So the first conference that we had, everyone just went in and did a self-service type of situation. Because they also had, they had like a Keurig machine, so you could choose what type of coffee you wanted. They had several different packets. So the first time around, like I just told everyone at the reception desk when they signed in, I told them to like go in and take their whatever drink and food that they wanted first before they sat down. And that worked out fine. But like, you know, the second time around, Miss Piggy, she was like, oh, there was no hotel staff around to serve the food. So she was like looking at me to serve them coffee and stuff. And I'm like, I have no problem doing that. But again, why are you being like so rude about it? There's a really normal, polite way to ask somebody to help serve coffee and food. You don't have to like talk to them as if they're lower than you, right? And like, I'm not hard up for this job. Again, I'm here because I literally just want extra money to pay for my Blend Bunny palettes. And I'm not here to socialize with you. I'm actually here because I feel like the other people from company A and also Big Sis from company D. I'm here because I found it worthwhile to make connections with them, as well as earn a little bit of extra makeup money on the side. But this is not about, I'm not going to enter into this whole hierarchical game with you. Like, that's your worldview, but that's not mine. So anyway, I did the hard reset, right? I was like, hey, good morning. She's like, can I get some water? Can I get some coffee? I'm like, good morning to you too. So then she was caught off guard because I was like speaking to her in Japanese. And then later on, I think like in the middle of the day, it was during lunchtime, so there were no clients at that particular moment. She went outside to go to the bathroom, which she had to pass my reception desk area in order to get to the bathroom. And then on her way back, she came up to me and she was like, oh, hi, like, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. She was like, remember we worked together last year as well at the event in November with company J. Like, do you remember? Yeah, so thank you. Thanks for your work. And so there's a saying in Japanese, it's like, kotoshi mo yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Like, okay, I'm looking forward to working with you again this year, right? So then, like, all of a sudden, after she came out of the bathroom, she like went up to me and she was like, oh yeah, all of a sudden I remember you. That was bullshit, because like she remembered me from the first time that she saw me in the morning when she decided to ignore me. But I think she was like oscillating, short-circuiting in her mind, because she couldn't, this time around, she had to like deal with my new persona that I was not budging on. Not that I changed personas or anything, but you know, I asserted kind of like my dominance in a way. I don't like to put it that way, but I asserted my power this time. And like, I sent the message that okay, you're not in charge this time because I actually have a good rapport with people from company A, and you really need me in order to make this event a success. You need me to take certain tasks off your plate so that you can concentrate on your meetings with your clients, right? So therefore, I'm not going to accept or respond if you come at me in some type of way. So I think she sensed that after she got out of the bathroom, she like came up to me and tried to make amends and like, say hi and stuff, but she kept oscillating back and forth. So this shows me that it's completely her own issue, right? She would ask me to like bring food and beverages for her and her clients, which I was fine with, but again, I didn't like the tone that she asked me with, but whatever. It's part of the catch-all duties in my job. So I brought it to her, and I would notice that she would go back and forth between like, she would give me dirty looks when I would walk up to the desk. I could see her, she was like looking me up and down, and I'm like, it's just crazy to me because I'm like, okay, do you do that with everyone? To be fair, I feel like she wasn't singling me out necessarily. So to be fair, I think she's just a sourpuss in general, but I can't imagine if it was someone that was not as unbothered as me, how do you deal with it when like they don't like the way that you're looking them up and down? Because there's people out there that definitely will not take kindly to the way that you're acting right now or to the way that you treat service people. So I just wonder, like, how does she deal with it when people actually call her out on it? But maybe that's the problem with most people because they don't call out behavior like this. Anyway, so she would like oscillate between giving me dirty looks, but then also profusely thanking me because I think she would like remember from time to time that, oh, I have to be nice to her though, because like the dynamic has changed now. She still has, we still have like a chat history that I left her on read when she asked me for high definition photos of the last event that I refused to communicate with her anymore after it wrapped up. So like this time she didn't dare to message me anymore through WhatsApp. So I didn't like send her any pictures or anything either. But her boss actually, so apparently her boss came along with her this time as well, who's also from Company D. I want to say she's originally from Hong Kong. Again, they all live in Dubai for most of the year, right? So the boss was also kind of bitchy and masculine, but at least she was more polite on the surface. At least she had like a baseline of politeness that I was okay with. I still don't like either of them as a person, but at least the boss was like, oh, can I get some water, please? Like basic manners, hello. But the boss at some points, she would hand her phone to me and be like, hey, can you take a picture of me and my client, or can you take a picture of us? And then there was one point where Miss Piggy came up to me and she was like, oh, the boss had handed me her phone. So I was like, okay, whatever. Let me just take a few videos and pictures. And then Miss Piggy came up to me and she was like, hey, sorry, can I see that for a second? And then she took the camera from me and she was like making it 4K or something. And she was like, yeah, if you don't do it landscape, and then if you don't make it 4K, she'll probably get mad. And she's like motioning to her boss. So I'm like, yeah, okay, now I get it. So she is operating under a state of nervousness at all times about making sure that everything is just so and just right for her boss. But the thing is, I don't give a crap about making your boss mad or not. Like, what are we in preschool? I'm a full-grown adult. I don't I don't go about my day, even if I'm on a job, under fear of making some authority figure mad. No, I'm the authority figure in my life. And especially if it's not something that I was specifically instructed to do, then that's not on me. Nobody instructed me to take the photos in a certain way. I was handed the phone with the camera app already open, and she asked me, hey, can you just take a few videos? So that's what I'm gonna do. Any type of special settings or whatever that you want, that's on you to communicate with me beforehand, or in this case, like her boss didn't say anything to me. So it wasn't like, it was so funny to me the way that she said that. She was like, oh, if you don't do it this way, she'll probably get mad. And she said that in Japanese, which it sounds more natural in Japanese, but I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't operate under this preschool good girl mindset that you guys are trapped under, that I think that I'm in danger of getting in trouble at every step. No, if you don't like the way I do work, you can shove it up your ass, okay? I'm still gonna get paid, or I'll just leave if I feel like you're trying to gaslight or what's the word? If you're trying to haze me. Like, I don't get down with that type of workplace bullying, workplace hazing shit, okay? Especially by people that clearly think I'm younger than I actually am because of my appearance. no. So that was annoying. And she kept swinging back and forth between two extremes. Like she would give me condescending stares, but then later on she would kind of like apologize or try to thank me profusely. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you have bipolar. So you have mental problems. Like you can't control your emotions and you need to get that under control. All right. But even though I know that it doesn't have anything to do with me, it's still not pleasant to deal with that type of personality. So I'm really having second thoughts about whether or not I even want to participate in the July event. You know what? I'm gonna DM Big Sis after this. I'm gonna ask her if she's gonna be present for the July 7th. Because if she's there, okay, then maybe I might consider, because I wouldn't mind working in proximity with Big Sis again for 2 days, even if I have to deal with Miss Piggy. But if it's just Miss Piggy, oh no, they can go to hell. They can serve their own beverages and finger sandwiches, and you can stress yourself out and be reminded of how helpful it is actually to have someone like me there, so that you don't have to do the job of 3 people at once while you're trying to concentrate on your meeting with your client. I'll let you flounder in that situation by yourself, if it's just Miss Piggy. But if Big Sis is going to be there, I don't know, maybe it'll be worth it to me. Oh yeah, the other guy, the doughboy guy also said to me at one point, he was like, oh yeah, I'm so jet lagged, etc. And I was like, oh, do you want like an energy drink? I brought a bunch of really strong energy drinks. I forget the name, but the Japanese convenience store, they sell a lot of these. It's not an energy drink. It's like, there's a lot of different ones. There's like ones for hangovers and ones that alleviate your exhaustion or your fatigue. So I brought a couple of those. I actually get a lot of sleep and a lot of rest these days, but I'm not used to doing a job that requires me to stand on my feet the entire day. I had a chair with me, but yeah, it was kind of like physical work for the entire day. So I brought a bunch of those drinks just in case. And Doughboy was saying that he was super jet lagged and he was kind of like falling asleep and struggling during lunchtime. Like he came out to the reception area to hang out with me. So then I asked him, I was like, oh, do you want, an energy drink? I was pretending that I was tired too, even though I wasn't, because I make sure that I get 8+ hours of sleep a night. But remember, that's another tactic I tell you, ladies, always match whatever level of struggle of the person that you're talking to, because that's clearly their baseline and they clearly feel that it's noble to struggle at that level. So you match their level to make sure that they don't resent you for some odd reason, because you actually love yourself and you prioritize your self-care. So I was saying, yeah, I'm also running on like only 4 hours of sleep or something, even though I had slept for 8 hours. And he was like, oh yeah, but like you get to cover it with makeup though. So do you see what I mean? This is like something that only South Asian guys really do. I notice a pattern with them. I don't like it. And like, I always ignore it, obviously. When they do it, I don't feed into it, but it's like they always want to try to humble the girl that they're talking to. I know it's because they feel inadequate, because they know that they're like on the bottom of the totem pole in the overall international dating market. But he was like, oh yeah, but you get to wear makeup. And I was like, I'm not wearing any makeup, excuse me, in like a playful way. But then as soon as I said that, he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But like, I was obviously wearing makeup, right? But like, I wasn't going to take that comment lying down. So that's why I like pinged the ball back at him. And I was like, hey, it was a feminine way for me to be like, watch what you say to a lady, right? Like, don't make comments about a girl's makeup. But then when he completely like fell apart and was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I was like, oh, okay. So you literally are so insecure. You're like a little boy trying to posit as if you're this big, successful, real estate Dubai guy, but actually you're just a scared little boy that doesn't know how to talk to women. Another thing that solidified the fact for me that I would never interact with these people in real life outside of this networking opportunity was the fact that during the first day, he was having a conversation with the TikTok girl. They were talking about another, like an admin type girl that they had just hired, or she was on a trial period or something like that. I don't know any details about the girl. I don't know her ethnicity or age or anything. I assume she's probably on the younger side. It's more of an entry level job. But yeah, they were just talking about how TikTok girl was asking Doughboy, oh, how is she doing? Like, do you think that we're going to be able to hire the admin girl full time? And he was like, yeah, I think she's doing well, And then out of nowhere, TikTok girl is like, is she cute though? I'm like, what? not in a bitchy way. Like, I don't blame TikTok girl. I still don't think I would be friends with her in real life, but she was definitely like a lot more pleasant to deal with than people like Miss Piggy. But anyway, so the guy, Doughboy, is like, oh, not really, to be honest. I see her more of as a back office person. Okay, I understand that in real estate, it does matter, if you're going to be in any type of sales, of course, looks matter. But I was just really put off and taken aback by how directly, like how blatantly they were talking about this girl's looks. To me, that's just trashy, low class behavior. And it's not surprising to me. It's not the first time that I've come across this, but it just drove home the point for me that, oh yeah, this is not people that I would ever associate with under any casual social circumstances, only for what I can gain from the situation, right? Like, I mean, it's a reality, especially of the real estate industry, that pretty privilege matters, presentation definitely matters, and being an attractive woman definitely is something that you need to leverage in your life in all areas, career, love life, etc. But that was just so disgusting to me, how they were openly criticizing this girl's looks that was not even in the room with us. Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't appreciate that, especially when it's kind of like when guys try to triangulate you against other girls by saying that, oh, you're so much prettier than her. I don't like that either. I don't consider that type of thing a compliment. The fact that you find me more attractive than another person, you can think that in your head, I understand that people obviously have their own preferences in their head, but if you say it out loud to me, I immediately know that you're trying to run some sort of manipulation game here. That stuff doesn't faze me. That stuff actually disgusts me, and it shows me like, okay, definitely real estate is probably not the industry that I want to be in. Definitely not this firm. But yeah, they said that. And then they were talking about this other guy from their office back in Dubai, or someone, I don't remember exactly. But anyway, he was like, oh, he wants to come to the next event because like he loves women, he wants to rub shoulders with all of the attractive women that show up at these events. And again, it just goes to further prove my second point that I was talking about earlier, that men are going to be men and they're always on the hunt for women. I was going to say especially the single ones, but whether they're single or married, really, men, like heterosexual men, are always going to be on the hunt for women, no matter what industry they're in, no matter what level woman they can get, whatever room that they can. Oh my God, my contacts hurt. Can I just take these out? Men are always going to be on the hunt for the P word, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't matter what level they're at. It doesn't matter what level they can afford. They are going to hunt for the woman that is at their level, the women that they can access, essentially. This is why you need to be conscious of this, and therefore restrict your access to certain men as necessary. You understand? This is why you don't give your company for free, because they're always on the look, and they're always going to take whatever is available to them. So why would you sell yourself short to a man that has nothing to offer you when you could just position yourself to be in better rooms with higher net worth individuals, higher net worth men that have more to offer you, okay, that can do more for your life. But yeah, that guy is such a doughboy. It's a bunch of basic bitches, basic male-centered, masculine bitches out here, and a bunch of doughboys and gingerbread man. My God, like, what am I really supposed to do except just collect my check and go home? I mean, at this point, hold on a second. Let me find my glasses, guys. You tell me, what am I supposed to do? That's why at the end of everything, I was like, you know what? These people most people just ain't shit. I might as well just enjoy the finger sandwiches and collect my check and go home. Like, what else? Really, what else am I supposed to do? I'm only a girl. And I'm going to use it for content, right? So there's that.